This guy searched an abandoned cabin and found all kinds of creepy. The cabin stands alone, barely visible among the overgrown trees that protect its secrets. Its windows are smashed or missing. Its front door is nowhere to be seen. What's more, the rot and decay of the roof make it seem as if the cabin has been ripped from the scene of a horror movie. The sensible thing to do would be to let the house alone and carry on about your day. But luckily for us, one curious man did no such sensible thing. Indeed, not only did this man, known as Derns on Reddit, venture into a spooky old building on his own, but he also took pictures of his adventure inside and uploaded the results to Imgur. This is his story. And for Derns, it was a story long in the making. In fact, these pictures are some 6 years old, taken when Derns was just 15 years old. It all started because Derns grew up spending part of his time at his family's vacation home in Rolla, among the Ozarks of Missouri. He didn't know about the creepy property across the river at first, so well hidden was it amid the area's overgrown weeds. But he did eventually spot it and, naturally enough, decided to explore it. As he put it on Reddit, this occurred one day in 2010 when he was alone during the middle of the winter. The cabin itself is tucked away on a long road. On this particular day, Derns followed the road for nearly a quarter of an hour and found no other signs of life. He did, however, suspect that there might have been another building somewhere on the land. But if there was someone else living in these parts, it was clear from the look of this building that they didn't look after the cabin. Indeed, dead trees and crumbling outbuildings surrounded it. It looked as if it had been abandoned for years. Regardless, Derns ventured closer, and he found plenty of things that ramped up the creepiness factor to the max. For instance, he discovered rusting old machinery lying on the ground and speculated that this was how the previous owner had got water out of the river. Elsewhere, he got a better look at the cracked and broken windows of the house. A forlorn outbuilding, meanwhile, stood empty nearby, its roof caved in, exposing its skeletal beams to the sky. Derns also discovered something he felt might be the first hint as to how long the cabin has been there. It was an ancient-looking wooden board marked with a vintage logo for sun-kissed oranges. Finally, it was time to see what the interior of the house had in store. Seeing no signs forbidding entry, Derns decided to risk what he called trespassing in the second degree as he tried the door. Fortunately, the door was unlocked, so Derns wandered inside and found, strangely enough, for an abandoned property, that some of the house's fixtures and fittings were still in place. In one corner, for example, the heavy metal stove that would once have heated the building stood empty and cold. It's not known when it was last used, though Derns estimated that the building was at least 50 years old. On the kitchen shelves, meanwhile, cracked cups and saucers were covered in thick layers of dust. In fact, whatever was once on a long-forgotten plate had now congealed into a black, crusty mess. Strangely, a vintage bottle of gum turpentine was also seen on a random table. This solvent may have been in the past used for a number of tasks, from stripping paint to lighting lamps. Whatever the bottle's owners were using the turpentine for then, though, they apparently abandoned it in a rush. Certainly the bottle was still open, and it was stood next to a cup and a pepper shaker in a mysterious tableau. In fact, the whole setup gave Derns an unnerving feeling. He said it looks as though someone just got up and left, or like someone went out after breakfast and just never returned. Having a thorough look through the place then, Derns determined to beat a hasty retreat, leaving the house alone with its ghosts. 4 years later, he decided to share his photos on Reddit. An enthusiastic discussion inevitably followed, and one eagle-eyed observer added another element to the mystery. According to this user, a painting spotted on the wall of the house might have had an estimated value of around $3,000. Who would leave such a valuable painting in their property, left exposed to the damaging effects of the cold winters and humid summers of this part of Missouri? One answer, perhaps, is someone who had a very good reason not to return.